When the police is around, community doesn't feel comfortable, right? And the presence of officers is traumatic for some of the community members, no matter how much social services you would like to provide to that particular community. Policing or enforcement is not the solution, right? That's way downstream. So now we have the community members in the room, and the police officers came in. The moment the police officers came in, the community just walked out of the door. Trust is the most important element for the community development work to flourish and thrive. Community building is directly linked to community well-being, right? And community well-being is tied to community safety. So, or community safety and well-being are two different aspects of community building. So when you try to improve well-being of community, so you focus on community building, and that's where the concept of safety comes in. So, and they are kind of directly proportional to each other. The more well-off a community is and the well-being aspect is covered, the safer the community is, right? So these concepts like the community building, community well-being, and community safety, they are very much interrelated. So community well-being is directly tied to community safety, right? And they're directly proportional. So the community safety goes up and down depending on the well-being of a particular community. And if the well-being indicators are not good, then you bring in the element of community development to improve well-being in a community, and that addresses the community safety aspect as well. Yeah, so this concept of community development is very common, and it's used both in the developing countries and in the developed countries. The difference is that in the developing countries, you're focusing on completely different aspects of community development, and in the developed world, it's different. So within even in the developed world, the community development is used differently depending on the nature of different communities and the level of their well-being, and the level of social cohesion in those neighborhoods, and the level of social capital. So all those concepts are there. So depending on the level of that community and the need of improvement in that particular community or the geographical area, because this community term is also interchangeably used for geographical communities and then functional communities. So that's why the concept is internationally known, but the application and the way you do community development is different depending on the situation in each geographical community. The terms that most of us need to understand when we talk in the context of community development, that's the well-being concept, and then the community safety, and then the community capacity building. So those are the different concepts, and we need to keep that in mind. And then of course the social capital, right? Those are the different terminologies which are interchangeably used in our community development terminologies. So I'll just give you a quick introduction of each of them. So social capital is kind of the broader concept of bridging and bonding. So the way residents in a particular geographical community interact with each other, there's the bonding between the communities, and then bridging is that how that particular community bridges and interacts with the communities and social service partners outside of that community. So that bridging and bonding, the more they are tightly bonded together, the more they are bridged together, the more we believe that community has a higher level of social capital. But in other communities where there's less interaction between the neighborhoods, there's less networking with the outside communities and the outside social service agencies and partners, then the social capital is down in those communities, and that directly affects the community safety as well, because people won't feel safe. The risk factors, so the social capital is down, the risk factor increase, and the safety goes down. The topmost challenge is like at the system level. So if there is inequity, if there is those structural barriers, all those at the system level, all those barriers or inequities or lack of opportunities that lead to the second level of challenges, which is poverty, homelessness, lack of opportunity, and disparity, right? So that's the second level of challenges. And then the third level of challenges is that those who are suffering poverty and homelessness and all those social determinants of health, then the third level of challenges is that when they move from that what we call the social disorder level to the crisis level, right? And then that has its own challenges and needs out there in the community. In terms of the barriers to this are the mindsets, right? So the mindset in the social services sector, that, for instance, there are some folks in the social service sector which would say that the police should do their own work, and to them, the police work is just going out there and do the arrests. But there are some in the police sector who believe that their work is only enforcement and they should be doing their own work, right? We don't have anything to do in the prevention and intervention sphere. Police alone is responsible for their community safety and well-being. But the problem is that for the community safety and well-being, all of them need to work together. The social service agencies, the municipalities, the police, and the community. So without that collaboration and coordination and leveraging of resources, nothing will happen in terms of the collective impact that we need to have to address those issues and problems. So these are the main barriers. So the mindset is the main barrier, both at the social service agency level, police level, and at the community level. If you look at the impact from a positive perspective, then the collaboration, coordination, leveraging of resources between the social service agencies, the municipality, the police, and the community, that just lifts the community to a different level. And then you're not as much dependent on the call for service to emergency services, right? Because there is enough social capital in the neighborhoods to keep it safe and address those risk factors in the community. If we are working together, we are planning together, we can together assess the resources need and the other needs, and then that's a collaborative plan moving forward. You might require more resources, I might require less resources, and then we play around and we plan together. But in the absence of that, what happens is that the social service agencies, they need resources here, the police requires resources here. The problem is that the issues that I shared with you in the beginning about the system level structure and economic and other inequalities, inequities, that lead to social disorder, right? And that social disorder is ballooning. So the calls for service, most of the social calls for service, on the average, 65% of the calls for service to the emergency services and police are because of that social disorder, not because of crime and violence, right? The crime and violence calls on the average across the country in Canada are about 30%, right? But the social disorder calls in some municipalities are up to 80%. So what happens is that the calls for service increases because the social disorder is right here, it's ballooning, and that increases the cost for policing. We are living at a stage in the history that if you look into the policing history and the community development history, things have gone up and down, and we have learned different lessons at different time. At this particular time, I believe that we have reached a stage where things are going to get clearer and everyone is going to have a good understanding of the consequences of not working together, right? So for me, it's just a matter of time, because that's the way moving forward, right? So sooner or later, we have to come together and work and plan together. And that would address, like, the major misconception is that the police is sucking all the resources, right? And we don't have enough resources in the social service agencies. But the thing is that if you keep working in those silos and you say that, okay, no one wants to work with the police, right? The consequence of that is that you never get to sit together and plan together, or remove this misconception that community safety is just the police responsibility. It's not just the police responsibility. So that's directly impacting every single aspect of community development, which these agencies have the mandate, right? Social service agencies have the mandate. So what I'm seeing from my perspective is that there is, of course, some resistance, but this is the age that we are living in, and people follow certain slogans like defund the police, etc. But sooner or later, they come to this realization that there's no way out. If we sit together, we plan together, we look into the resources. If we need resources, more resources in the social service sector, police would be the first one, and we have seen this in Quebec, police would be the first one to support the call for increased resources to the sector. But everything is part of a plan, right? So nothing happens in isolation. So if you sit together and you look into the needs in the social development area, needs in the prevention area, needs in the risk intervention area, and needs, of course, in the incident response. Look into all the needs, and then you allocate resources accordingly, right? So if you do that type of analysis, you never know. If the social the disorder has gone to that level, you might need more emergency response resources, right? So to do that realistic assessments and allocations and appropriate strategies to address the issue, then again, the bottom line is that all those social service agencies, municipalities, and police, they have to come together and work together, and that will automatically address the solution, address the issues, and come up with the right strategies to address those issues. I would say that we are at a stage in the community development field that we can benefit from the emerging technology, from the social media. On the one hand, policing can benefit from the emerging technology. On the other hand, but conceptually, things have got clearer to the community, to the social workers, to the police officers, because things evolve. Like in our time, I've seen there was a time when we were going out to the communities, engaging the communities, there was no social media to engage them. There were, like, even the Facebook, and no one was using Facebook that much. The tools, the social media tools that we have, like WhatsApp, etc., right? So those things were not there. So we'll have a neighborhood watch, but those members to stay together, to be connected to each other, they had to come out to me. So there was nothing like WhatsApp to connect all of them. So that's from the technological perspective. But then conceptually, things have evolved and got clearer. What we were considering, for instance, as community policing at that time, now it has been more clearer in terms of the approaches that what community policing actually is, right? And similarly, the support that we are receiving from the different levels of government for that work, and the way for instance, in Ontario, the province has mandated the community safety and well-being plans so that the municipality would be looking into the community needs, identifying risk factors, work with all the key stakeholders to address those communities. So those things were not there. So from technological perspective, all those elements were not there. And even from the approach perspective, conceptually things were not as clear. And then things were not mandatory for the province and for the police and for the community to work together to come up with those collaborative solutions. So when I compare the time when we were out there in the community, when I was young, and doing community development, it was extremely challenging. Like, just to do a community survey, we either had to do manually, drop a survey to every single household and then collect it and then manually do the assessments, or other stuff that we were doing, like even just getting the community together, that communication piece was not as effective as it is now today.
Winners of Ottawa's first annual Community Safety Awards were celebrated. Nominations were collected from city residents for people who have made an outstanding contribution to crime prevention in our city. 9 winners were chosen and recognized at the ceremony tonight. Abid Jan won the award for Community Safety Leader after bringing Banff-Ledbury residents and service providers together for monthly potlucks.
So many issues related to crime and safety in the neighborhood, and that community engagement approach works so well in the Southeast Ottawa that now we have adopted it as a key component of the community development framework of the city of Ottawa, and now we are replicating it citywide.
I was already in the field of community development, internationally working outside of Canada, but when I came to Canada in 2002, what actually made me make that complete switch, but using that community development in support of community safety, was that I found that there are some communities out there where, despite the best efforts of the social service agencies, we couldn't make progress, and we needed community safety to take place first, and then you bring in social services, and then you can actually improve the community. So initial failure was a motivation for me when I was not even able to engage 14 community members from 5 at-risk neighborhoods. And that became my motivation to do some research and come up with some solutions. And the solution was doing crime prevention through social development, and that way transform those neighborhoods and change those communities. And that work went on very, very successfully. So from then on, wherever I moved, whether to the city or United Way, and now at the Ottawa Police, that's my job to work with the communities, work with social service partners, and improve the levels of safety, working in collaboration and coordination with all the key stakeholders, social service partners, municipalities, and the law enforcement agencies. Yeah, so the surprising discovery for me, which is quite recent, is that the second time the community policing concept got off the rails is that when police services started looking into community policing as the policing at the neighborhood, at the community, at the very grassroots level. But that's not community policing. Community policing is a service-wide approach, and then you have to look at all the services that a police service offers and look into that from the lens of community safety and well-being, which means that you look at your services from the incident response, that what is it that you're doing in this sphere, what is you doing then the risk intervention sphere, what are you doing in the prevention sphere, and how are you working with the community social service agencies in the development, community development side of things, or social development. So looking at your service from that lens makes your service-wide approach as a community policing approach. I brought the police officers for a meeting with the community. So now we have the community members in the room, and the police officers came in. The moment the police officers came in, the community just walked out of the door, all of them, and I'm standing there, and I was feeling so embarrassed because I brought those police officers that let's have a meeting with the community. So that was the beginning. But then fast forward 6 months from then on, we used to meet regularly every single week. Thursday night we would meet, and the police officers would come, and if the police officers would be late or won't come, the community members would be asking me that, is Mario and Lisa coming or not, right? So that transformation actually happened when in the second meeting, those police officers came in and they reassured the community that, look, we are here to work with you, to help you, to support you. And one of them said that, you know what, I'm not asking you to trust us. You're saying just test us, right? And that was the beginning of that transformational movement in the community. And again, more than 20 years of work in the community, bringing the police officers and the community together to meet residents in the community meetings, to meet children in the summer camps, to meet youth and work with youth in the critical hours. So meeting with all those residents at different times, but not even once I heard from any single community member that they were not feeling safe in the presence of a police officer. So, as I mentioned, we are going through, in Ottawa at least, we are going through a very interesting time where we have a city community safety and wellbeing plan that was developed a few years ago. Now we are going through the review of the community safety and wellbeing plan. Police is also kind of coming up with its own district model approach to work closer with the communities in the community. There are other initiatives like community development framework in the city, which is kind of refining its approach and the way it presents its work to the community. So all those big things are happening at the same time, and I'm thinking this is a great opportunity to get together, or identify the priority issues, look into the risk factors, and then come up with the collective joint approaches for risk intervention, for prevention, and addressing those issues. So from that perspective, this is a critical time, and the sooner we get together, the sooner we are able to discuss any misunderstandings, any issues that we think are the barriers for that collaboration between these different key stakeholders, the better for us and for the community. it's easy for the community to see themselves in the bigger scheme of things. And the way I describe it is kind of this is like an orchestra, and all of us have to play our respective role. Otherwise, we won't be able to create the kind of harmony that we need to create to take Ottawa to be the role model for their transformation in the community safety, which is directly linked to the community well-being as well. So the more we are clear about the broader concepts of community safety and well-being, the better it is.